Meet Eleanor Williams, a young English woman with a tragic past. However, few knew she wove a brazen lie into her story, which unfortunately dealt a devastating blow to the lives of many men. And to restore the lives of those affected will require an enormous effort. So who was Eleanor Williams, and what drove her to create this web of lies?
On the northern coast of England lies a small village nestled by the Irish Sea, with a population of about 55,000.
Romans and Vikings settled in this seaside town for millennia. The town thrived in the 19th century thanks to the new railway and port. In 1976, the world's largest steel mill was built in Barrow. But unfortunately, Barrow declined due to the closure of most industrial enterprises, leading to the region's dire situation. However, the city's proximity to the media industry spurred further development. Not far from the city was a small island called Walney. The Jubilee Bridge is the only way to and from the island. Being isolated from the mainland boosts property values, as homes on Walney Island sell for twice the average mainland price. The Williams family lived on this island, particularly a girl named Eleanor Williams. Eleanor's family was relatively large: mother, stepfather, sisters, and brother. And they all simply adored her. They lived in an area known for its lively gatherings and parties. While attending high school, Eleanor had a close-knit group of friends. However, everyone thought she was odd due to her absences and sometimes erratic behavior. And it's worth noting that what's odd to one person might seem normal to another. For example, I used to drink coffee without any sugar, and I like to kick scattered things around my bed. Additionally, I make crime videos. I have my quirks, but you probably do too. But her friends meant something else when it came to Eleanor, as she seemed socially anxious and even obsessed.
Nevertheless, Eleanor's neighbors described her as a kind, pleasant girl from a good family, and that's indeed true. Her grandmother worked as a cabinet minister for children's affairs, and her mother dedicated herself to the Labour Party. So it's no surprise that when Eleanor moved into her own apartment near Barrow in 2019, her family was very worried. Adding fuel to the fire was her disappearance 32 times over just a few months. Then, in May 2020, Eleanor's world and everyone around her turned upside down. On that fateful day, she posted a horrifying story on Facebook. The post began like this: "This is the hardest post I've ever written." The 19-year-old girl claimed she was kidnapped and, well, you can guess what else was said considering 3 men of Asian descent were involved. She also claimed she was literally taken on a tour through northern England, Amsterdam and Ibiza, and that she was beaten as punishment because the men couldn't attend parties during the pandemic. She also posted several photos of herself with horrific injuries, including a black eye, bruises and hematomas. As expected, Eleanor's story shocked the internet. Her post garnered over 100,000 views and stirred national and local media, as well as outraged hundreds of thousands of citizens. These were quite serious accusations, and naturally, most of the world instantly believed her. Her sister and relatives immediately stood by her, and a Facebook group supporting Ellie was created, gaining over 60,000 members. With such a large community, the hashtag Justice for Ellie became popular. A fundraising campaign was also launched, raising over £22,000 to fund legal aid for Ellie. Now, supported by such a strong sense of community and driven by an insatiable desire for justice, Eleanor's story couldn't just be forgotten. Now she has financial support, family and supporters, and the legal system relentlessly pursuing those who harmed her. And of course, they had to pay for it. But Eleanor had one small key problem, and it was that her story was utter nonsense. You see, it took investigators quite some time to figure this out, and when they did, I'm sure they refused to believe it. Fabricating such a heartless story is, of course, quite something. The more they dug into surveillance footage, evidence and data, the more they realized her story was made up. And of course, it's good that these cameras worked and could capture her in different places. After all, many stories I've told involved some app's imperfection or insufficient data security with all the unpleasant. So the investigation began, but this time against Leonora herself. It turned out that several police officers weren't surprised to learn the truth because they already had experience dealing with Ellie.
In this video, I'll show you many surveillance camera recordings that confirm this, but first, let's go through Leonora's complicated history before we untangle her web of lies. As I mentioned, she was already well known to the police. Just in the last year before the alleged attack, she was reported missing from her own home 32 times. To escape her problems, she often abused various substances and alcohol, and almost every time during her binges, she disappeared. Additionally, she was often found intoxicated in unpredictable places. Despite all this, it's important to note that she already had a problematic case in the past, also involving false claims of an attack. In 2017, she told a nurse that a certain Cameron BB spiked her drink at a party, and you can guess the rest. But as the police found out, this story was fabricated. 2 years later, in March 2019, she told one of her colleagues that another local resident attacked her. His name was Jordan Trengove. The circumstances, by the way, were very similar: substances and a night party. After that, the same colleague went to the police, but when an officer tried to talk to Eleanor about these claims, she said she didn't want to press charges. Jordan and Ellie were indeed at the same party, but she disappeared in the middle of the evening. Moreover, Jordan had never met her before and had no dealings with her at all. In any case, proving his guilt was impossible since Jordan was aware of all the evening's events. Moreover, he went home with another girl. He had a solid alibi. Ellie's family was worried that she often disappeared without explanation, and while no one knew where she was, Leonora had the freedom to make up any stories she wanted. One of the stories she made up was about the same thing: an attack, but by several people, including Mohammed Ramzan. She claimed he had been grooming her since she was 12, and according to her, Ramzan was part of a brutal gang that kidnapped young girls for sale. She claimed Mohammed forced her to go to Blackpool, which is not far from her town, and there he attacked her along with other men. However, surveillance footage showed Leonora walking alone to the station that day, and Mohammed wasn't there. She was also seen buying groceries at a Blackpool hotel store that evening. Analysis of her phone showed she spent most of the night watching YouTube videos. The next day she returned home alone and without any injuries. When Eleanor claimed Mohammed took her to Amsterdam and Ibiza, she was actually at home, as confirmed by receipts. Regarding the main event, Eleanor was found by police in a field. She had multiple injuries, including a swollen eye and a partially severed finger. She claimed a gang member picked her up and took her to a house with 10 men, and you can probably guess what she claimed happened next. However, evidence showed that a hammer with her blood found nearby was bought by her just days before. Her injuries didn't match her story, and she inflicted them on herself before going to the field to wait to be found. But most frighteningly, Leonora falsely accused innocent people, and this lie had devastating consequences. A window was smashed at a local Asian establishment, and Muslims were harassed on the street. The whole town became literally hostile towards Asian residents, and hate crimes increased. Mohammed's home was searched, and his ice cream business suffered because no one wants to buy ice cream from someone allegedly beating girls with a hammer. Mohammed's family received over 500 threats, resulting in him attempting, you know what. Although he survived, the pain he experienced naturally remained. Investigators eventually showed Eleonora evidence disproving her story. Seeing no way out, she admitted her lies and was held until trial. At the trial, it was clear the evidence against 22-year-old Eleonora was overwhelming. All supposed correspondences with her abusers were fake. The Snapchat account Ellie claimed was Jordan Trengove's was created from her home's Wi-Fi. A store receipt for the hammer was a solid alibi for Mohammed. Her passport showed she never went to Ibiza. CCTV confirmed she was alone at the Blackpool hotel. All DNA on the hammer was hers. Many of her stories were inconsistent. The pathologist noted her injuries were in areas reachable by her right hand. She likely inflicted them herself. Leonor said Eleonora invented people on her phone. She used 2 phones to fake messages. She fueled racism by framing her story with Asian thugs. Most fake messages had poor grammar and spelling. She gave senders foreign-sounding names like Salsa. The court was puzzled why she harmed herself. The trial revealed Eleonora had complex PTSD from childhood trauma. She showed PTSD symptoms including substance abuse and death thoughts. Dr. Bacon suspected undisclosed childhood violence. Social services were alert about her family until she was 8. The nature of their intervention is unknown. Psychiatrists called Eleonora a pathological liar, making up stories easily disproven. The jury found Eleonora guilty on all charges, sentencing her to 8.5 years. Eleonora's lies devastated her and her victims. Jordan Trengove was jailed for 73 days due to false accusations. Vandals frequently targeted his home afterward. Cameron Bibi was falsely accused, fearing for his and his family's safety. Eleonora showed no remorse for her harm. She clearly needs mental health support. Men affected by Eleanor's actions were diagnosed with severe PTSD. Justice was served, but overcoming the accusations' effects may take years. False accusations can make innocent people feel guilty. This can happen due to manipulations like Eleonora's. Her lies destroyed innocent lives and affected families. Ellie's family still believes her story about an Asian gang. This case discouraged real victims from speaking out. People must restrain themselves in emotional situations, especially with social media. This grim story highlights important issues and lessons. Support the video with a like to help spread it. Thank you for watching.